Hey everybody, hope y'all are doing well. So I got a question from Michael, who's a new patron here. So welcome, Michael. And he asked about the differences between the different mbira tunings. And so I wanted to kind of make this video. This is going to talk about the different tunings. Yeah, so here we go. So there are several different tunings. And in fact, probably the most extreme example is Garikai's mbira orchestra and mbira Zainarira and those guys, and they have 7 different tunings, and then they have different mbiras that'll be the same tuning but octaves apart. So they can have, I think, up to like 12 different mbiras that all will kind of sound different. But the vast majority of mbiras that you hear in Zimbabwe and that most people here play are the Nyamaropa tuned mbira. And then a significant number of people also play Mavhimbe. There are some other ones that are common, like Dambatsoko, and I didn't write down little notes of, and what I call Njari Nemakonde, that's what Matimai calls it. Dongonda is another name for that one. So I'm going to kind of quickly go through what all those different things mean. But the first thing to know, this is going to be a repeat for some of you, but it's important to know the difference between what key you are in and what mode you are in. Now, these are Western musical terms. They're not terms that are used in Zimbabwe, but they're a really good way of showing what's happening. So just know that, we're not often dealing with Western tunings on mbiras. So these sort of terms of like, if I'll mention a mode, like a Mixolydian mode or whatever, these are general approximations of what's happening on the mbira. They're not the rule. So this is more like us superimposing a Western musical concept on something that exists on the mbira. So just keep that in mind, please. But it is a good way to help understand what's happening. So the first thing that I want to explain is the difference between, what is a key? Right? So if you think about, like, if you're in the key of C, and you do your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, so that's a major scale in the key of C, right? So the major scale is the mode that it's in. The key is C. So you can play a major scale in a different key, like in D. So same mode, different key, right? So we can go up, we can be in any key and be in the mode of our choosing. I can go all the way up to A, and that's still a major key, it's still a major mode, but it's in a different pitch center. So Nyamaropa, mbiras, is referring to the mode. It's referring to the mode that the mbira is in. So you can have high Nyamaropas, middle Nyamaropas. You can have a Nyamaropa that's in any pitch, but it's all going to follow the same mode, generally. Again, different families are a little different, but that's kind of the general idea, right? So, that's the first thing. A lot of people think, you say, what mbira? I play Nyamaropa. Oh, cool, well, which Nyamaropa? And then they're just like, what? So we play what is often called a high Nyamaropa. So a way to kind of tell, this is my, making sure we're still recording, yes. This is my Nyamaropa mbira that I use in pretty much all the Nyamaropa mbira lessons here on Patreon. So what you can do is you can look at your mbira, and you count 3 from the upper left. So this note is the key that the Nyamaropa mbira is in. And I believe that's E, if I remember. Yeah. So it's between an E and an E flat, right? It's almost an E. So here's where it gets a little confusing, but I'm going to try and take this slow. So I would refer to this as an E Nyamaropa. E meaning the major scale mode that this mbira is tuned to. Now here's what gets a little tricky, and it's just something you just need to keep in mind, and it requires a clarification. Here's an mbira that I built that is in the key of C. Right, there's a C. It's a little out of tune, but so there's a C. So that third one up is a C, right? But a lot of people call this a G mbira. Now, why is that? It's because the lowest note is a G. So a lot of times people, when they refer to an mbira, they will use the lowest note as what they call it. So a lot of times people will call this a G Nyamaropa. But so you just kind of need to clarify. They're not wrong and I'm not right. It's just, we've decided, I decided to refer this to the major scale that it's in, whereas other people are referring it to the lowest note, which makes perfect sense too. So a G Nyamaropa is often the same as a C Nyamaropa, but then you can imagine you have a Nyamaropa where this note right here is a C, then a lot of times they're going to call that a C Nyamaropa, and it's not going to be this one. Hope that makes sense. Point B, I think, in fact, this might... Yeah. So an example, I call this an E, but this lowest note is a B. So a lot of people call this a B Nyamaropa. So just keep that in mind. Yes. So Nyamaropas. So a very common kind of thing, again, that people refer to is they'll say, oh, a Nyamaropa mbira is a Mixolydian mode. So what does that mean? I'm not going to get into all the different modes because that's a big subject, but just very quickly and generally, the C major scale. Let's just look at C major, right? There's no sharps and flats in a C. So you just go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And so that last note, that B, before a C, they're only a half step apart. There's no black note between it. That's called a half a step. A Mixolydian mode, all it does is it's the exact same thing as a major scale, but that last note is a whole step apart instead of a half step. So instead of a B, it would be a B flat, and it would just sound like this. Now that's very common in like blues. You hear that dominant chord with that flat seventh because it wants to resolve. So why do they call it a Mixolydian? So that C major, right? Let's stick on my this mbira here, which is in C major, so it'll be a little easier. This C major mbira has a B. It doesn't have a B flat. So there's our B, C. But if you start on the lowest note, that G, and you make a scale out of it, only on the white keys, right? Because you're in C major, there aren't any sharp, any black keys. If you start on a G and you go up, you have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that note right before the G is an F, which is a whole step, not a half step. So that's a Mixolydian mode. A Mixolydian mode has a whole step between the last note and the root note. So people call this a G mixo a lot of times, or G Mixolydian, and that's what it's referring to, is that it has that instead of a F sharp. Hope that makes sense. This is already getting pretty long. Yeah, we're deep into it now. So hopefully that basically explains a Nyamaropa, and it can be a high or low or anything. So if you're getting an mbira, for example, for these lessons, if you want to get an mbira specifically for the key and the tuning that we're using, you want something that is in the key of E, or maybe sometimes people call it a B, Nyamaropa, which is a very common tuning. If you can't get that tuning, it's okay. You can still learn from the videos. You watch the fingers, you figure it out. People have to do that all the time to learn from an mbira that isn't in your tuning. It's very common. So if you find that difficult, practice that because it's a really important skill to have. Okay, now Mavhimbe tuning. Here's a Mavhimbe mbira. We do Mavhimbe lessons. A good way of telling if it's Mavhimbe is you start trying to play Nemam Sasa. Let's listen to Nemam Sasa on the Nyamaropa mbira. It sounds bright and happy and cheerful. Listen to same song on Mavhimbe. More mysterious, darker, moodier, these are all termed, but this is all relative, right? Because, so what a Mavhimbe is it's a different mode than the Nyamaropa. So you can have a Mavhimbe and a Nyamaropa that are in the same key, but they're different modes. So what does that mean by being in a different mode? What it means is that this fingering that you play of the songs on a Mavhimbe tuning, they're going to sound different because it's going to be like playing Happy Birthday. Sorry. Right? We're doing that in the key of C. My first note is a C. But now if I just do the exact same fingering and move it down to a B, sounds really weird, right? We've shifted modes, but we're still in the same key. Hey everybody, so the juice on my phone went out, so I'm having to do this next part with my camera. The juice on my camera went out, now I got to do the rest on my phone, so it's a lot more wiggly, obviously. But I'm just about done. So the thing I really wanted to show you was Mavhimbe is a different mode and so I think hopefully you caught that part where I took Happy Birthday, played in the key of C, and then if I just stay in the same key, stay in the same, only on the white keys, but I go down and start on a B, sounds very different. We've switched modes. That's the exact same thing that happens on a Mavhimbe tuned mbira. So specifically now, let me just flip this and just show you. It might not let me. Okay. So the Mavhimbe mbira. All right, you know how I had shown you that the third over on a Nyamaropa is the key that the mbira is in. On a Mavhimbe, it's the fourth over. So right here, this mbira is in the key of F. Meaning if I do that's my F. I'm doing this upside down and backwards, so let me see if I can. Hear that? So it definitely has a... So you can see how there are, so this is a good example. There's a few differences that are a little flatter than a normal Western scale, but that gives you the rough idea. So a lot of times, again, people do the same thing with Mavhimbes, is they'll usually count it by the low note. So on this, it's kind of like it's in between a B flat and an A. So it's pretty much right in the middle. So a Mavhimbe, you'd want like an A or an A or a B flat Mavhimbe if they referred it to that, or an F Mavhimbe. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers some questions about some differences. So same deal, you can have Mavhimbes in really high or really low. I didn't get a chance to get into all the other types of tunings, but they're definitely much less. This new phone, and I'm not very good at it yet. I think I said everything I needed to say before I shut it off. Oh yeah, so I didn't get into all the different kinds of tunings, but these are by far the most common. So we've already gone pretty long. I'm not going to get into Dambatsoko and Gondonga and Dongonda and all those other ones. All right, love you guys. Take care. Please do me a favor and let your friends know about Patreon. We're still right at about 70 people. I was hoping to get up to 100 people by the end of this year in order to really keep things going. So if you have friends that have been enjoying what I'm teaching here and they're not yet members, please let them know, get them signed up. Also, if you're interested in getting those mbira loops, that's at $20 a month or more. So any little bit y'all can help for the holidays or moving on. We're moving out of our studio space, can no longer afford rent here. And so, things are tight and just doing what I can to keep it all going. So any support from you all is greatly appreciated and loved. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.